Hello Art12, welcome to your Sketching the Still Life demonstration. So this image is in Google Classroom. You're just going to bring it up on your device and have it on the screen. You're going to need just like one of the white, like cheap pieces of copy paper in your set, or any blank paper that you have. The back of something is totally fine. Okay, we're going to do two quick sketches. One is going to be really fast just to kind of take a look at the still life, and one is going to be actually trying to draw it. So I am going to fold my paper in half, and we'll do one small sketch first, and then I'm going to just visually divide. It's 8.5, so we'll go 4. You don't have to measure, you can just eyeball it. Okay, so we're gonna do just one sketch. We're gonna take a couple notes off to the side, and then we'll do a full bigger sketch where you're actually gonna draw detail. All right, so when sketching, the first thing I kind of look at is, where is my biggest item? So the biggest item is the bottle, and you can just measure with your fingers or close one eye and measure with your fingers on the screen. And it's like, maybe if we did like 1, 2, 3. So if we divided the paper into thirds, or divide my space into thirds. So that means the top 2/3 would be the bottle. And then I would kind of just put it in there like it's pretty much in the middle, comes pretty close to the top, so we have that piece. All right, then I look for the next biggest item, which is that piece of wood right there. So I look at like this angle kind of. So you can hold your pencil up to the screen, close one eye to find that angle, and then I just kind of transfer it over onto my paper. Double check it, line it up, okay. And so then I'll have the piece of wood like somewhat here. So these are called guidelines. When I divided the paper, and now I'm gonna put in guidelines for my items. So really those are my two biggest things. And so I do need some shapes to look at in order to see like how the apple lines up and how the piece of wood lines up. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of hover my pencil above and trace, close one eye when you do this. So it kind of looks like a circle, like kind of a fat oval-y circle. Then I'm gonna break this down into just a rectangle. So this is called blocking in, when you use a shape to help you start the drawing process. And the reason why we do this is to achieve accurate proportion. Okay, so just have shapes. Okay, so then I'm looking at that piece of wood, and it comes a little bit past halfway, or it kind of lines up with the edge of the bottle here. So I'm gonna end my piece of wood right there. And I look at, it probably comes down a little bit lower than what I had. And then I can't see the edge of the bottle, so I know that piece of wood covers it up. And I look at where that piece of wood lines up. So I'm comparing about here. And so that top is kind of like an oval. So I'm just kind of breaking it down into a shape. Okay, then I look at, where does the apple line up? Okay, so it lines up pretty much where the spout meets the body of the bottle. And then where does it line up here? A little bit below halfway. So if this is halfway, a little bit below. So then I would look at how the apple's a little wider at the top, and there's a little bit of a gap or a space between the bottle and the apple. Okay. Next, I would probably do the leaf. That one looks a little bit easier than the flower. And so I look at how that leaf has an angle to it. So I'm gonna do my guideline of an angle, line up my pencil. And so when you're doing this, like let's say this was like on the screen of my computer, then I would just kind of hover my pencil in front of it and then transfer down. And then you guys are gonna get this image just like this on paper. And we're gonna actually use a grid to draw with, but it's very helpful to kind of always look at something before you draw it in terms of shapes and angles. Okay, and then I'm kind of looking at how much lower the leaf comes, but compared to the glass. Okay, so we're not actually drawing it, we're just blocking in shapes. Okay, so then for the flower, I would look at where does the flower line up with the bottle? A little bit past halfway. Okay, it lines up covering the wood. It comes over here to the side of the wood. And I look at like, okay, how much lower does the flower come compared to the bottle and the leaf? Like there's like that space between. So I'd say maybe here. So then that gives us a shape to fit that flower in. I do look at like where the center is, how it's kind of like an oval. And then from there, we're gonna add guidelines for the next one. Okay, so then for that shell, look at, okay, so there's a space below and it lines up kind of like in the, well, like the edge of the bottle, the shell lines up. And it lines up with a little bit past the edge of the flower. And then I look at how far down. Well, it starts here, maybe like here. And it does have an angle to it. So I'll put that on there. Kind of looks like a rounded triangle a little bit. So this is called blocking in, where you have guidelines, you're looking and comparing how tall things are compared to each other. So this is how you would always start a drawing for accurate proportion and spacing to make sure things are the correct sizes compared to each other. Okay, so first step is to divide paper. Your second step was to add angle guidelines. Your third step is to block in largest items. With shapes. And then step 4 is to compare. Compare sizes, how tall things are to each other, how wide they are, etc. So you're going to take these steps and we're going to do another sketch and we're going to enlarge it. So I'm going to start with the same process. So I'm going to divide my paper into 3. Okay, and then I have my bottle somewhat in the center. And then I kind of like hover my pencil above or in front of the screen and trace. And I usually close one eye to do that. And so that also creates some muscle memory where your arm is kind of remembering the curvature of something or the angle of something. Okay, blocking in. Okay, so I'm going to go through this whole process and then you would actually go back and then start adding in some contour lines and details and cleaning it up. Okay, so I'm looking at my apple again. And so this paper is not as wide as like what your final draft is going to be. So my apple is going to end up cutting off a little bit, I feel like. That's okay. We'll just draw what we have. So find the angle of the leaf. Okay, edge of the bottle, top of the shell, side of the shell. I'm probably down about here. Find that angle. Okay, so from there, you are gonna clean it up a little bit. So I'm gonna zoom in real fast and I'm gonna show you like, okay, now how would I actually take a look at what it is I'm drawing and add some detailed contour lines. So give me just a second. I apologize, this thing is hard to adjust. Okay, that's a little bit closer. All right, so from here, then I can kind of clean it up. Probably use my pinky eraser. You erase out what you don't need. Okay, so I'm looking at the top part, which looks slightly curved. So I am still trying to practice drawing lightly. And then that turns into the curvature of the handle. Cleaning up as I go, drawing that shape of the negative space. You don't have to draw anything in it unless you feel like you want to draw all the detail. I'm really just more concerned about the contour outlines for this sketch. Oh, actually, so there's way more space here than there is on that side. So I feel like that needs to start a little bit earlier. So the more you look at things, the more you'll see the actual detail. All right, so for the piece of what I'm going to use my blocking in as a guideline to draw from, but then I'm going to slowly kind of follow my eye around. It kind of comes up a little bit more, comes in. I feel like there's a piece here, and there's a big crease in the wood, or a crack in the wood. You don't have to draw all the detail, but the basic shape you are going to focus on. Okay, so we have that piece. That piece comes around. Actually, this needs to angle down a little bit more. Like that piece right there. Okay, because then this piece comes up, and then you have that. And it kind of curves. Okay, so then I would clean it up. So I want just the basic contour outline. So I will post a finished picture of this, but I want you to just kind of follow your eye around for the, let me show you guys the flower real fast. Okay, so for the flower, I kind of start out with like where my center is, and then this kind of looks like an oval here. And then I look at how there's like a looped piece here. And that kind of angles back. Then from there, I'm going to give myself guidelines. Like I'm going to start with this petal. And I'm going to say it goes from here to here. All right, then the petal behind it goes from like here all the way to here. So I have guidelines for each petal. All right, so then for this one, it starts here and it kind of curves out. And then I have this petal, which starts, it kind of meets in the center here, curves out, and it meets in between these two here. And so you just kind of build out from the center. So I always start with the center. Okay, then once I have all my guidelines on there, so I have this one, and then there's like another one back in here, this one out here, and it meets in here. Then you can actually sit and like draw them in their entirety. So I'm gonna then draw the detail that I can see as lightly as I can. And really with the petals, to make them look more 3D, it's all shading. It's all the shading, which then we'll learn next week. Okay, so kind of clean it up after you have it drawn. So I just kind of build out from there. So use your guidelines, start in the center, and then I also am looking and making sure like I'm within my like boundaries of my blocking in. So I will post a picture of a finished one of this. So you're gonna start out super fast with blocked in sketch, take your notes, and then you're gonna do just a contour outline drawing. You don't have to do any shading on this, and you'll take a picture of this and put it in your Google Doc. Okay, have fun.